Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for a very special spooky Halloween interview. I'm Bailey Howard Leonard. I'm a board member with the Permian Basin Adult Literacy Center, and I would like to thank you for joining our live author stream with Daka Herman. And a big thank you to Southwest 66 Credit Union for sponsoring our 2023 live streams. Hi, Daka. How are you?
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy that you're here too. I'm a big fan. Can you introduce yourself and tell our viewers a little bit of your history?
Sure. Again, my name is Daka Herman, and I'm a writer of middle grade horror. I also work, my day to day job is working on a preschool show called Spidey and His Amazing Friends, and I write for animation as well. And I've always been very loving the kids space and loving writing for kids. And so that's something that I've been focused on my entire career.
Okay, how did you get started in that? I mean, how do you even transition into that?
You know what? Growing up, I loved cartoons. Those are my best memories, like getting up on a Saturday morning, running down, watching cartoons with my little sister, and I would want those stories to continue. So when they weren't on TV, I would make up my own. So it was my own version of fan fiction. So I majored in English Lit Creative Writing at Agnes Scott College in Georgia, and after that, I had an internship at Nickelodeon, and that just sort of started me on my career working at Nickelodeon, at Disney, now at like Marvel, and so it's always started with my love of like animation and reading and story, and so that's how it all began.
Oh my gosh, I knew I liked you prior to you mentioning all of my favorite things, Disney, Marvel. I knew I liked you before, and now you've just like moved up so many cool points. So, obviously, you know that adult literacy is our primary focus. Why do you think adult literacy is important?
Well, I know growing up, reading was my safe space. Like I was sort of, you can't tell now talking, I've worked on it, but I was sort of like shy and introverted. And reading was my escape. It was where I felt safe. It's where I fell in love with these characters who accepted me, who knew me. Um, and I know how important that is for kids and for adults. It's a way of communication, I think, and engaging with the world. And so I think it's important for someone to have that space where they can go in and feel comfortable, and learn about worlds and learn about cultures and experience things that maybe they don't have in their own environment. So it's a way of sort of like broadening your horizons, and opening you up to like learning new things. So that's why I think it's really important to be able to read a story and fall in love with the
Absolutely.
characters.
Yeah, absolutely. It is the greatest thing to fall into. So we're not going to spend a ton of time on it, but I do have to give you a rave review for Hide and Seeker. You and I discussed this last week, and I still don't know how Hide and Seeker ended up on my read list. It was either a Reddit mention or maybe a friend started it on Goodreads or something like that. So I picked it up. You know, you go to the bookstore, you buy a bunch of books. It came time to read it. I picked it up and I thought, oh, this is for middle school kids. As a person who reads a lot of horror novels, this was one of the creepiest,
Oh,
spine chillingest. It gave me the chills. It was so good. I remember like 2 pages in going, oh, I don't even care if this is for not my age bracket. I don't even care that I'm maybe too old for this. This is fantastic. It's so, so good.
thank you.
How did hide and seeker come about? How did this happen?
So, funny thing is, I was visiting my grandmother in Tennessee, Chattanooga, Tennessee, where the book is set. And me and my cousins were talking about just how we used to love all the outdoor games and playing hide and seek. And someone mentioned the weird chant, which is the actual chant in the book. And for those who haven't or have read it or want to read it, the chant goes, "I went up the hill was muddy, stomped my toe and made it bloody. Should I wash it?" That's how we started the game of hide and seek. No one knows where the chant came from. It was only said on this one street. And I started thinking about how creepy that was and how hide and seek is sort of like almost hunting kids for sport. You're like looking for these kids. What if one disappeared and you never found them? Like what would that mean? And so that was sort of the inspiration for the book, that chant and the whole game and how it's slightly creepy, but you never thought about it as a kid.
Oh my gosh. I love that. Okay, so we can move on. I want to move on to your newest release, The Nightmare King. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about that?
So, okay, so I think all of my books have to do with something that I'm going through in my personal life or like something I'm dealing with. And the first one, not to give too much away about Hide and Seeker, it's a character dealing with someone losing someone important in their life and how they dealt with that. In Nightmare King, I'm also a horrible sleeper, and so I have insomnia, and so I start. And if I do sleep, sometimes I have these weird dreams. Um, and so that was sort of the inspiration of Nightmare King, is someone having like bad dreams or and not knowing what they are, and also the hide and seeker may be about loss. This one's about self worth. Like, who decides your worth? Is it you, or does someone decide your worth? And I sort of combine those themes of things that I'm dealing with, and in this book. And sort of live it out through a middle grade boy, pretty much, in this book. But they're sort of my therapy, I think, these books in general.
You know what? That's such an important message for kids, though, is get in early. Who determines your self-worth? I love that. That's so important. And people don't talk about it enough. It's really, really important for
Mhm.
teenage boys who are not necessarily allowed to express
Right.
in the same way that teenage girls are, the feelings they're having and the emotions that they're having. So, I mean, you may have worked some stuff out, but also you're probably helping some other kids work some stuff out. I love that. Can you read? Can you read a selection from The Nightmare King?
Sure. I have a couple pages for you. I'm going to start off with this is actually chapter 5, and it's going to be one of the dreams or the nightmares that this kid is going through. So let's see. Here we go. I glide through a tunnel. A light appears in the distance. I stand before a castle. A large stone fountain appears. A basketball bounces toward me, landing in the water with a big splash. I reach for it, but it disappears, leaving behind coins, gold, silver, and copper, at the bottom of the stone structure. Bulging fish eyes appear on the faces of the coins. They blink. Gasping, I jump back. I hear whistling. I recognize the melody. It's a lullaby, Rockabye Baby. I shudder as it grows closer. You are worthy, a sinister voice whispers to my ear. My heart races as I spin around. A dark smoke-like form appears. It morphs until it's human-shaped, but there are no discernible features. Above its head, something sparkles. Wisps of dark smoke drift forward and coil around me like a snake. I struggle to breathe, panting loudly. A cloud of gold particles billows out of my mouth. Something brushes against my arm. A slight touch sends a shiver through me. The nerves in my face vibrate, then there's a hard tug on my cheeks as if they're being stretched in different directions. My scar ripples, then burns as it is seared off my forehead, inch by inch. There's value in suffering. The pain pierces every molecule in my body. I scream, "Wake up, Shane, wake up!" My eyes fly open. There's only darkness. Something grabs my shoulder and shakes me violently. Panting, I twist and turn, struggling to get free. No, stop, let me go. My arms flail around wildly and land, hitting something. Hey, a voice shrieks. Click. Light from my bedside lamp brightens the room. My blurry eyes dart around, finally landing on my sister. She stands next to my bed, breathing almost as hard as I am. I scramble back until I hit my headboard and try to catch my breath. I'm awake, safe, but not. The nightmare, it won't release me. I still feel it. The memory of the terror prickles my skin and is rooted deep in my chest. Sadie. I squeeze my eyes shut, then quickly open them again. Too dark. You hit me. She's wearing a headscarf and has dots of white stuff on her face. It's probably toothpaste. She read somewhere it's good for acne. Sorry. I clear my throat and wipe sweat off my forehead. My hand trembles. What? What are you doing in my room? She crosses, then uncrosses her arms. You woke me up. You were screaming. I lick my dry lips. Out loud? That's usually the way people scream, Shane. Are you okay? Yeah, it's just a bad dream. I tug at my damp shirt stuck to my chest. It's hot and cold at the same time. I'm hot and cold at the same time. It's like I just finished an hour of intense basketball drills and jumped into a freezing shower. Still too hot on the inside and, and shivering all over. You look horrible, says Sadie, her nose scrunched. Then I look how I feel. Want to talk about it? She asks cautiously. My stomach spins. The dream. It was weird. Already some of the memories are fading, even though the uneasiness remains. Out of the corner of my eyes, I glance at my nightstand. I have a notebook inside the top drawer. I want to grab it and write down stuff so I'll remember, but I know that might raise flags I don't want raised. She bites the corner of her lip. Are you having nightmares again? That's the complicated question. The nightmares never really stopped. Sadie doesn't know that though. I hesitate, unsure of how to respond. The really bad ones, she clarifies. The bad ones happened in the hospital and lasted weeks after I returned home. The bad ones had me paranoid, convinced something was after me. The bad ones made me afraid to sleep. I developed insomnia. I had frightening mood swings. The bad ones sent me to therapy and had me questioning if I'd ever be me again. They wrecked me, disturbed me in ways I still can't process. The bad ones eventually stopped, but now I'm not so sure what's worse. Remembering all the scary stuff or being traumatized by the jumbled mess of disturbing images and feelings I don't understand. The not knowing, the unseen, is sometimes more terrifying than the seen. I can't fight what I don't understand.
Oh my goodness. Um, ooh, wow. And you said that's in chapter 5?
That's chapter 5.
Oh gosh. I do like Sadie's answer though. That's usually how people scream out loud.
Yeah.
That's usually how they answer. Um, wow. Can you see? I've chills. I have chills already. I don't know what it is. It's so good. And the these kids in your books, they are awe inspiring. They are brave. They are adventurous. They are loyal. Are any of these kids based on real people that you know?
They are based on like friends I grew up with or people in my family. And I always, so for all of my books in my head, one of my favorite all time movies is Goonies. And I love that friendship. I love the thought of kids working together to save something that's important to them. They all have strengths and weaknesses, but when they combine, they can do these great things. And I think that's probably why I love superhero movies and Marvel and all of that too, because you have these people. But I also like the thought of kids. You don't have to have superpowers to do good things. You can have those friendships and those connections and tap into something inside you don't even realize is there. And so that's what I try to communicate in the story. Like no one's perfect because none of us are, but we all have something to contribute. And friendship and finding your group of tight friends is always important.
Absolutely. Well, and it's, I don't have kids and I am pretty fairly disappointed in the human race on a consistent basis, right? I feel like adults are just pretty disappointing. And I feel like we have all the capabilities and we have all these possibilities in front of us and we just choose not to do those things. But, novels like what you're writing, things like Ender's Game, when maybe the kids aren't yet spoiled by being an adult, but they show all of this potential. And you read about these kids doing these extraordinary things, and you're like, that's what adults should be doing.
Yeah.
That's what we as adults should be doing. So I love that theme of kids can do extraordinary things because nobody has squashed their dreams and told them they can't.
Right.
That's right. Let's never squash them. Let's just
Right.
tell them they can always.
And I don't have any kids either. I have like nephews, and I think about them and think about what I would want them to learn and learn young, like what I wish I had learned about self worth and like having these friendships. And you don't have to have tons of friends, but if you have a core group of friends you can count on and work on who like support you even at your worst, that's important and that's what you need. So I sort of write for that. I write for them and write for younger Daka who didn't know those things at the time, who felt alone and sad and who thought they didn't have, she didn't thought she didn't have what she wanted. So I just kind of tap into that younger
I
me.
love that. There's a ton of themes that you approach that I love. kids doing extraordinary things, conquering your fear, knowing that you determine your self-worth, not anybody else. But I also really want to talk about the game aspect
Okay.
because I love that. I love that. Are you planning on doing more based on children's games? Is this a theme, maybe a series? Hoping this is me, fingers crossed, because gosh, I just love it.
I'm working on the 3rd book now, and it's based on another game. I can't give it away too much. It'll be out in 2025. But yes, I mean, I grew up in the era where, like, video games were just, like, really, really starting to become popular, but I was one of those kids who were like, "Let's go outside, let's play, red light, green light, tag, hide and seek, kick the can," like, all those things. I liked being outside and being active. And again, those are some of my best memories growing up. So I want to bring that back to kids. I guess in
Yeah,
this way.
absolutely.
But I love that aspect. And also, all of the books are set in one area, Chattanooga, Tennessee, where I grew up. It's sort of if anyone knows Buffy the Vampire Slayer, it's sort of like my hellmouth of like where everything goes wrong.
Yeah.
And so that's the two things I'm focusing on. But yes, there are going to be at least one more game.
Did you ever play the version of hide and seek, which I'm a little hesitant now to play hide and seek, just so you're aware that I'm a little concerned about playing hide and seek with my niece. Did you ever play the version called Sardines, where only one person or everybody is it except for one person?
No.
And so so here's the version of it. This is fun. Okay, so instead of one person is it and seven people hide, you have seven people are it and one person is hiding. So those seven people are now going to seek. As they find the person, they then join the hiding. Right. So if you picked a teeny tiny cubby hole,
Whoa.
the jig's gonna be up real quick. But as you find, so it can go on for a while. It's just like a weird variation of hide and seek, but everybody is it except for one. And then as you find that one, you hide with them.
So it can get down to one person looking for like the other seven people.
Yeah. Yeah. And that person is the loser. Yeah. Yeah. It's
That's
a- it's
interesting.
it's pretty fun variation, especially if you have to cram a lot of people into one teeny tiny spot.
Place. Right.
Because then, I mean, people just try to get all wiggled up and that's
Twister.
enjoyable.
Well, you
Maybe
know,
that's a local thing.
right, and I as I was been researching different games, it's like it's interesting how different cultures or different places played the different games or the different variations that we all have of the game, but the important thing is that there is the game. Like,
Yeah.
somewhere, someone was playing the game, kids were outside doing this, that's always fun.
And
Yeah,
that's how urban legends are
exactly,
born.
exactly.
So because I love reading, I always like to ask, what are you currently reading?
So right now, okay, so it's usually hard for me, like, when I'm deep into a story or, like, writing and revising to read anything, but on my list that I have that I just started is the, Clackety, someone
Okay.
recommend, and I don't know if anyone's read Nightmare Island by Shakira Bourne.
I'm not.
Um, that's amazing and creepy, and I recommend that. So those are the ones lately that I've been revisiting or reading again, um, as I start, because sometimes I need to get myself in the spooky mood. Because I think we talked about this a little bit before. It's like I didn't set out to write horror because I'm a big scaredy cat. I thought I was writing Goonies, and then it became, "No, you're writing horror, write more horror." So that's how I tap into everything, which is a lot, I'm afraid of, and put them in the books. So, like, growing up, I was like, "Give me Nancy Drew, give me Narnia, give me, Sweet Valley
All
High."
of the
Like,
choices, though. All of those are great, great
those things,
choices.
yeah. So now I'm getting myself back in the spooky mood, which is good about this time of Halloween. So I
I
can
love that you
dive
just
in.
fell into it and you did not mean to write. And maybe, you know what? Maybe that's the trick because I read a ton of horror and they always start out fine and then just are horribly disappointing. So maybe that's the trick. Maybe all these people trying to spook people should not start out trying to do that.
Trying to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me how that process works for you because you're writing for a show, you're writing for animation, and you're writing books for your own self. How do you keep all of that? I mean, that's a ton of writing.
I guess the good thing is that, it is different because for the animation, it's for little kids, so it's like 2 to 5.
Okay.
And it's like action adventure and it's really quick. And then I can switch my brain to like, okay, now you go to middle grade and scare people, So I can just I kind of divvy up my days of like, okay, when I have to write an animation script to when now I have a deadline for the book. And I just kind of switch the two. But sometimes I find myself like holding back in the middle grade book because I'm so used to like, no, 2 to 5 year olds, they can't be
Yeah.
scared, they can't be in
Yeah.
danger.
Yeah. You
I
can't
have to
scare them.
pull myself off like, no, this is a different space. These are older kids. This is what this is. And it literally is just kind of switching my brain between the two.
So I'm going to assume with all the writing that you do that maybe journaling is not the best stress reliever for you since you're doing that all day.
And the thing is, I love journaling. I was a big, I would do it every day, but no, not so much as when I'm writing, but I do tend to randomly get ideas, and I still have tons of journals where I'll go and I'll write it down because I'm like that could be something later. So instead of like maybe personal journaling now, it's more about writing journaling about
Okay.
stories of like, oh, this character would do this or feel this way, and that's the stuff I keep track of.
Okay. Okay. So it's October. I know you don't like scary things, but I know you wrote amazing scary books. Do you dislike Halloween?
No, I do enjoy Halloween, and I think it's more it's more about the candy.
Oh, I'm with you.
Candy. I enjoy seeing, like, how people go out for the decorations, like, seeing like, I'm in a neighborhood now where there's, like, 10-foot skeletons on people's, lawns that light up and scary. I like that aspect, and again, I don't like being scared, but I love seeing the little kids in costumes, like,
Yeah.
walking around, enjoying it for themselves, and that because I did go trick-or-treating as a kid, but again, I was like, "I'm gonna be something not non-scary," but, so I enjoy the festivities around it, I guess, but,
Okay.
not a haunted house or any of that stuff, I wouldn't do.
Yeah, Halloween is my favorite. I think maybe I veered off because I wasn't allowed to do Halloween. Like I didn't trick or treat until I was 18 years old. So we actually just got back from Halloween Horror Nights at Universal with
Oh,
Daka.
okay.
Um, if you're ever feeling brave, I hear it's just an extra notch up on scary at Universal in LA. So if you're ever
Yeah.
feeling like, hey, I gotta approach this, check out Halloween Horror Nights. What was your favorite costume when you were a kid?
Oh my gosh, that's a good question. I'm trying to think, what did I dress up as? I can't remember one particular costume. It would have to be like whatever was popular at the time. If it was like a superhero, I probably would want to have wanted to be like a superhero or like a transformer, like it's something weird,
Oh,
um,
Transformers fan.
something like that. I don't even remember what my again, I remember the candy aspect of it. Um,
That's
And
one
the
of the best.
moments of, like, divvying up the candy with my sister after we got home. I don't know. I can't remember costume.
Well, you'll have to ask your family what was the
I
cutest
will,
thing.
or see if there has to be pictures of me somewhere dressed up as something.
Oh yeah.
But I know I was probably the person who was like, I wouldn't have wanted to be like a princess or anything. It would have been like, I wanna be a G.I. Joe or, a
Power
Transformer
Rangers were
or
very
yeah,
popular.
yeah, something like
Power,
that.
Power
Yeah,
Rangers were very cool.
Power Ranger, exactly, something action oriented because that was what I enjoyed.
Well, Deka, if people want to know more about you, about what's coming up, where can they find you on the internet?
Okay, so I'm really bad. I'm sort of bad at social media. I am on Twitter and on Instagram. My website, dakaherman.com. I love answering emails, answering any questions. I'm pretty quick turning around with that. So I think that's the best place. But again, try all of those places, but I will answer quicker on dakaherman.com on my website. And then you'll hear about the new books coming up. I'm in a short story collection coming out in April
Okay.
2024, young adults. That one's a little bit older. Um, And then I'm working on the third book that will be out in 2025.
Well, you just keep adding impressive layers. You mentioned short story collection. I'm like, oh my gosh, what can you not do?
And it's
Uh,
me among all of these other amazing writers. I just have one story in the collection. It's called Black Girl Survives in the End, and it's all about the Black girls actually surviving and saving the day. So that one, that's going to be 2024, April 2024, I think.
okay, and what is that collection called?
It's called The Black Girl Survives in the End. And I think,
That's
hold on one second. I have a poster. It's really spooky looking.
oh,
Isn't that cool?
oh my gosh, I love that.
Black Girl Survives in this one. Yeah. So it's a group of all of these writers, and I'm just one of I think a dozen of them, and they're all amazing. Again, completely surprised I was asked to participate, but it's great.
That is beautiful, and I am for sure going to be grabbing that when that comes out in April, and I will be waiting anxiously for 2025. Um, I want to thank you so much, Daka, for joining us for
You're
this
welcome.
special spooky Halloween one. Please check out dakaherman.com, check out her Twitter, check out her Instagram, and absolutely pick up these amazing books. You can get them on Amazon, you can get them at any bookstore online. You can probably get them at your Barnes and Noble in town. Definitely check those out. And thank you all for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.